This is from The Guardian. This is the room where it happened. The Assembly Room at the Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where 250 years ago this week, a group of sweating, treasonous men broke from the most powerful empire since ancient Rome. Amid a summer of trial and error, delegates including John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson ratified a flawed but aspirational document to declare their independence from the British Crown. The date was 4 July 1776, but it took nearly a month for all 56 delegates of the Second Continental Congress to formally sign on. I don't blame them, Maggie Burkett, a park ranger, told a group of about 40 tourists as they gazed at the green baize tables adorned with books, letters, pipes, and candles in one recent afternoon. These words on this page are treason, just as much as burning the king coats of arms was. By signing this document, you're literally risking your life. The 56 men who signed this document were brave. In my opinion, they were heroes. The anniversary of this date and this document should be a cause for a unifying nationwide celebration. Yet 2.5 centuries after a bloody revolution that humiliated King George III and installed George Washington as the first U.S. president, the semi-quincentennial has become just the latest cue for division, rancor, and existential angst. There's a sense of dread, said Eddie Glaude, the author of America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries. It's as if it's going to descend below kitsch. It's going to be a collage of terrible myth-making. 2 hours south of Philadelphia in Washington, D.C., the official center of the nation's birthday party is, critics say, looking less like a dignified civic jubilee than a gaudy reality TV pageant. Trump, who has been hyping this anniversary for years and has expressed glee that it falls in his second term, launched a project to beautify the Capitol with statues scrubbed clean of graffiti and water flowing from long neglected fountains. He even intends to build a triumphal arch that will dwarf the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. But in a metaphor that's almost too neat, the president has come unstuck with a $14.7 million renovation of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pole on the National Mall. No bid contracts for the work were awarded to vendors with past ties to the president and the Epstein files. Yes, Carafa is in the Epstein files. Within days of its completion, algae bloom turned the pool water bright green while its American flag blue coating began to peel off. Trump has blamed the embarrassing debacle on mysterious vandals and threatened the alleged vandals with jail time. This tone set earlier this month when, on June 14th, coinciding with his 80th birthday, Trump commandeered the White House South Lawn to host brutal Ultimate Fighting Championship cage matches. He followed up last week on the National Mall with a formal kickoff for the Great American State Fair, in effect a Trump rally with military jets roaring overhead that was hastily arranged when previously announced performing artists withdrew over the event's partisan nature. Wait till I tell you who those artists were. But I can't leave out how, addressing the crowd, the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy railed against those libtards that canceled on us, while his daughter with Down syndrome stood behind him. While praising Trump as the greatest president that's ever existed in this country since George Washington, the affair featured no Democrats and culminated with Trump's familiar battle cry of "Make America Great Again" and signature dance to the Village People's gay anthem YMCA, performed by the U.S. Marine Band. The state fair is running for 16 days and was canceled already yesterday for inclement weather that wasn't there at all, just a light sprinkling, but they closed it down because it's so fucking embarrassing. Nobody's there. All of this has come about after America 250, the official bipartisan commission established by Congress more than a decade ago, was elbowed aside in favor of Freedom 250, a Trump-aligned initiative. America's 250's modest ambitions include a time capsule with contributions from all 50 states, an essay contest for students, and an America's Block Party concert on July 4th featuring Queen Latifah, Chris Stapleton, and the Smashing Pumpkins. But no, let's have a Trump rally instead. The upshot is that America's milestone birthday feels particularly joyless, less a celebration of the world's most powerful country than a case study in how a demoralized, self-doubting nation has fallen prey to culture wars and the narcissism of its leader. Trump, a uniquely divisive president, laying siege to freedoms, institutions, and truth itself, has proved to be the ultimate party pooper. Speaking from a hotel across the street from Independence Hall, David Blight, a professor of American history at Yale University, said, "I don't feel celebratory at all. I don't know how to explain Trump's vanity projects any better than anybody else. This is who he is. He's not unlike Mussolini, who wanted to leave his mark all over Rome. It's like theater of the absurd. And others draw a sharp contrast with the bicentennial of 76, when, amid a glut of commemorative merchandise, New York hosted a floating parade of 16 tall ships and more than 100 smaller vessels from around the world, including the Soviet Union. The Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, boasting an array of planes and rockets from the Wright brothers Flyer to the Apollo 11 command module, opened the National Mall. Gerald Ford, then the president, did not make the celebration about himself. Gloom is shared by a pessimistic American public. According to a recent Reuters Ipsos poll, 38% of respondents, including 40% of Democrats and 26% of Republicans, do not believe the U.S. will even exist as a single country 250 years from now. Nearly 2 in 3 Americans agree that their democracy is in danger of failing. Even among conservatives, there's a sense of mourning for the jamboree that could have been. Bill Whalen, a fellow at the Hoover Institute think tank in Stanford, California, said, ideally, the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the founding of the Republic should be the equivalent of the Christmas truce of World War I, where people put down their weapons and got together and exchanged cigars and played soccer and stopped fighting for at least a very brief period of time. Whalen suggests that the voters in the 2024 election, deciding between Trump, a Republican, and a Democrat, Kamala Harris, chose how the anniversary would be marked without knowing it. With Kamala Harris, 1776 would have turned into a very long conversation about 1619, when the first enslaved Africans arrived in English North America, and a republic built upon robber barons and inequality and injustice. It would have been a time of reflection, sorrow, and shame. The good news is you don't get that with Donald Trump. The bad news is that with Donald Trump, you get a question of good taste and what is excessive, what is tacky, and what is narcissistic. The preamble to the Declaration of Independence has been described by the historian Walter Isaacson as the greatest sentence ever written. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet Jefferson, its author, enslaved more than 610 people over the course of his life, and some of the other founding fathers did likewise. In 1776, more than 400,000 African Americans lived in slavery. Women could not vote and typically could not own property. The Declaration makes reference to merciless Indian savages, and the young republic removed Native Americans from their lands. America has spent 250 years wrestling with the contradictions of its original sin. This anniversary should have represented an opportunity to contend honestly with these tensions, the zigs and zags, the giant leaps forward, and the jarring backslides. Trump's mere presence inadvertently proves the point. We can easily understand American history from the beginning as a contest between competing ideas of liberalism and illiberalism. We're frozen in that battle, said Lepore, author of We the People, A History of the U.S. Constitution. Trumpism is not an aberration. It's an expression of a very strong and durable strain in American politics and culture, but it's always in the midst of an ongoing contest. How does one steer back? This is very challenging because of the institutional rot, the constitutional rot, the civic rot, the general decay of trust in institutions, which I associate as much with technical change and the power of Silicon Valley as I do with Trumpism. Glaude, a professor of African American studies at Princeton, views the current moment not as an anomaly, but as an echo of 1926, when the white supremacist Ku Klux Klan marched on Washington, claiming credit for Calvin Coolidge's election, when Coolidge himself rejected the idea that America needed to strive for a more perfect union, arguing instead that the nation needed to remember and restore its past. Trump, Glaude argues, has echoed that 1926 rhetoric by yoking the perfection of the country to himself. Jefferson's first draft of the Declaration of Independence did condemn the transatlantic slave trade, but that section was removed, probably to appease slaveholders in the southern colonies, Glaude added.